Hello everyone, welcome to the Money Club series. I am your host, Zar Azmi, and I am joined by my co-host, the Chicken Burger, Sam Eljaban. How are you?
Good man, good. That's gone back in time. Long time ago, I used to be called the Chicken Burger. Am I still a Chicken Burger now? I'm the lean Chicken Burger.
Yeah, you're in shape now. You're in shape, just in time for summer.
Took a while, but got there.
Just in time for our last podcast for 2024. Wow, this year has flown, hasn't it?
Very quick, man. Very quick. You know, I heard a theory about time. I like sharing stuff with you, so I'll put it to you. They reckon time gets faster, relatively faster, the older you get.
It does.
It does.
It does.
And the guy I was listening to, it made sense. He goes, okay, if you're 1 year old and then you become 2, at 1 year old, 50% of your time has been spent on Earth. But if you're now 10 years old, it's only 10% of your time. So that 1 year gets quicker and quicker the older you get, so it's going very fast for us.
It's almost like compound interest, but the other way.
It's like instead of growing, it's squeezing.
It's a diminishing return, and this is why time is so precious, right?
And that's why you got to act, really.
Yeah.
And we're always telling people act.
And this is why we're doing less podcast every year.
We've got no time.
We've got no time left. We've got no time left. But to our listeners, welcome back. And we promised you from the last time that we'd squeeze in a couple more. This will be the last one for the Money Club. It's been a fucking roller coaster of a year, Sam. It's had a lot of ups and downs, and it was only yesterday I did a post, and I don't post often anymore, right? On my personal page, but I did a post on the last, basically Luxland turning 10 years old. I did a long post in terms of just describing the journey, and it made me think. I was on the plane. I was flying to Melbourne. Fortunately, I had Wi-Fi, so I was able to do a few bits and pieces, and I was just reflecting on the last 10 years of business, right? And the ups and downs that I've had with that business, and it's an incredible journey. I never thought I would be in the position I am in today. When you think about it, when you get to our age, 10 years is a relatively short period of time. It
can go very fast.
Yeah, it's a small percentage of overall life, but in the beginning, you look 10 years ahead and you think, oh wow, it's so far ahead of us. A decade, right? Even now, I'm 40 years old. I'm thinking 50 is a while away, but we'll blink and it happens, right? But there's so much you can do in 10 years, and I was reflecting on how I started, and the good people I met along the way, the bad people I met on the way as well, and who helped me, who held me back. And it's I get the money and the rewards and all of the accolades that come with running a business for 10 years. It doesn't really compare to the personal growth that you go through and the person that you become on the way through. And we talk about my success so much, and then I thought, you know what? I think it's time to talk about Sam, right? Because Sam's story, for our listeners, Sam's story is actually quite inspiring and it's quite motivating. And I actually went to your brother's house for dinner over the weekend, and our usual annual Christmas get together with the families. And unfortunately, you couldn't make it. But, you came up in conversation quite a lot, and, we were just reflecting on the change that you've made in the last 5 or 6 years, right? And it really has only been 5 or 6 years since we've really closely worked together.
I think there might be a correlation.
Yeah. I think I deserve a present. But in all seriousness, you've done extremely well for yourself and for your family, and it's been a pleasure watching you grow and turn into the businessman you are now. I consider you someone almost basically like my brother, right? And it's a funny story because I've only really gotten success probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And when I say success, I've started really see things compound in the last 5 or 6 years for myself. So I do have you to thank for it. And 5, 6 years ago, I was still really struggling with all of my businesses, my personal life, all of that sort of thing. And I actually remember, reaching out to my actual bigger brother and saying, you know, I'm on the cusp of something big here, and I really, really need your help. Like, it's so hard to trust anyone. I'm about to crack it. There's going to be, you know, so much to eat for everybody. Like, it's going to be great. And I really wanted him to take on that role to, you know, help me get to where I am now. And, you know, sort of fell on deaf ears, and you know, which was quite disappointing at the time. But I then turned to you, right, and said, look, there's this role available. There's a lot of opportunity. Man, let's do this, right? And I remember, you know, when we were buying your first investment property, and you know, how much of a struggle that was to just educate you and get you into the right mindset. And look, the rest is history. Like, you're now a millionaire on paper. You know, you're married to the girl of your dreams. You've got a thriving business. You're no longer a chicken burger. You're in shape. Like, everything's working out for you, Sam. And I think you deserve to be spoken about and celebrated, right?
Thank you.
And this podcast is called From Zero to Hero. This episode, right? And I just want to talk about your life, really. You know, like, we always talk about me, and all of my successes.
You've had a lot of exciting stuff happen.
Yeah. And look, so have you. And I think, you know, it's important for our listeners to know the journey, because it's not all smooth sailing, is it?
No. And thanks for the kind words. You've definitely helped me over the last more than 5 years. We've been friends for a long time. And even before we started working together, you helped me with a lot of personal stuff, which was very timely and very appreciated. So I do hold you in the same regard as a family member. So
I love you, brother. I love you.
I look forward to the future.
Yeah,
together,
man. It's very, very exciting. Very exciting. And I want to continue this, you know what I mean? Like, you've helped me immensely, you know, and I just wouldn't be in the position I'm in today if it wasn't for you. So I thank you.
Pleasure.
But let's get started on your early life, and tell us a little bit about how fat you were when you were a kid.
I'll get to that. For some reason, all right, so for some reason we were a very athletic family. We started in little athletics. We played soccer for a long time. And amongst the siblings, for some reason, I was the fat one. Even though we ate the same stuff and exercised the same, for some reason I was always fat. So I don't know what the fuck happened there.
But you're cute. You're cute.
Yeah,
you were the cute one out of the family.
I was probably sneaking too many lollies or some shit. But I was always a bit chubby. But early life, I guess I'll set the scene a little bit just to give a bit of background. You probably heard I'm from a mixed sort of race background. My dad came from overseas and met my mum in Sydney. So back in the day, they were living in Sydney. And when I was born, my dad actually picked up the keys for the house on the Central Coast. So we were supposed to be brought up in Sydney, because that's where my dad settled with my mum, and we had my two older siblings. And then as soon as I was born, we left and went to the coast, and I was named a very Arab name, and I stood out very much on the coast. So growing up on the coast with a foreign name, as you'd know, you sort of know you fit in, but you're a bit different. So from that early time in life, you're sort of always looking inward, going, who am I? What am I doing here? All that kind of stuff. There's a lot of reflection I found growing up as a young kid. But it was good because I had siblings in the same position. So we sort of fed off each other. You know?
Just for our listeners to know, so they just understand how, like, our backgrounds, right? Yeah. When Sam was born, that's basically when my parents built their house in the same suburb, which was only down the road from Sam's. So we basically
late
80s,
early 90s.
Entered this Central Coast suburb together.
There were no Zars and Sams and stuff back then.
As the only two Arab sort of named families in that suburb,
pretty
right?
Pretty much.
And it's probably why we connected so well from the very beginning.
And when I reflect, like all my mates from an early age, even to teenage years, they've all been, because there weren't many Arabs or Muslims even on the coast. All my mates were like foreign. Like I had a Greek mate, Serbian mate, Moroccan mate. Yeah. I got along with Aussies, don't get me wrong, but I think because when you grow up with a foreign parents, whether both parents or just the father in my
Well,
situation.
you connect with these other migrant
Same-
families,
same
you know what I mean?
experience,
And
yeah.
we were the same with because I was close with your brother,
Mm.
and like all of our friends were like, you know, Persians, Singaporeans, Chinese, you know what I mean? So you sort of you're the minority,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
sort of you know, group together.
And you connect because you've got the shared experience. Like, you understand my stories about my dad because he did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you fucked around, you got smashed.
Yeah.
Like, smashed. Like, and then you build a bit of fear over your dad.
Yeah.
But then you go to your, like, maybe non-foreign background friend, and they're talking back to their parents. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I'll get destroyed. if I
And
did
then
that."
their dads are just handing them a VB, and they're like, yeah, it's all good.
When they're 14,
At 12,
you're just
12
like,
years
yeah.
old.
And all the parties are at their house. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, very different upbringing. You sort of find out where you fit, where you belong, and where you're going to sort of grow and develop yourself. So early life was interesting. I wouldn't change it for the world. Had great parents, great siblings, great friends, good environment. Nothing was ever really easy, but I think the people were mad and amazing, and it just allowed life to be okay. Like, it was hard times, but you get through them with good people.
Yeah, and it when you look back on it and you think, like, in the moment, it was actually quite hard. Like, I felt it was really hard because, you know, you're an outcast and, you know, you're trying to fit in, right? And it is very difficult in the moment. But then, like, I look back now and I think it was probably the best thing that happened to us, right? Like, it really built resilience. It forced us to be very understanding of different cultures and build relationships with different people. And, you know, I carry those skill sets now, and so do you, into our business and into our everyday life, you know, and I think it really shaped us. I think, you know, if we sort of bubble wrap our children here now in this era, but I think it hardened us and built calluses, you know what I mean? So,
Like, for example, your family didn't go, I don't even know, were there many Malays back then? There probably weren't.
there was no Malay
There was no
community.
Malays. So you didn't even have a community to go to. But
There
my dad
wasn't,
took us out of, probably for good reason, out of this sort of Arab community in Sydney to the Central Coast, and we had no sort of community. We had to sort of, we didn't have that safety zone, that buffer of, oh yeah, cousins, uncles, aunties, everything right there, and their friends and stuff was automatic family.
Well,
So
it's still like that now.
Exactly,
like I
yeah.
go back to, you know, see my parents, seen them on the weekend, right? And there's no community there for them, like as in the same race, you know. It's not like, you say, Greenacre, where, you know, all of the Lebanese will
just Lebanon, pretty much.
or Cabramatta, where all the Viets are. We never had any of that. So, and it's still not like that. It's still predominantly Caucasian, right? But you know, over time we've built you know, a community of our own, and you know, race is really only just a race. It doesn't really sort of dictate, you know, who's on your team and all of that sort of thing. But it was difficult in early life.
Exactly.
Let's move on to school and education.
Yep.
We obviously went to the same school, which was a public ghetto institution.
High school,
But I really want to sort of go into more so tertiary education and that sort of thing.
So after high school, I always wanted to go to uni. I had other people, like my good friend's brother, he did uni. I enjoyed what he was talking to me about when I go to their house. And I was always interested in sort of the economic space. So you sort of, to get a job in that area, had to go to uni. Also, my dad was always, and my mum, they were always supportive of educating yourself more. My brother started a degree and he didn't finish it, and he nearly got murdered for that. I just found out the other day, I didn't realise, he told me when I saw him, he dropped out of a, what was he doing? Like a chemistry or science degree or something like that at UTS in Sydney. And after a year, he didn't enjoy it. He quit and he went home and told my dad, and my dad chased him down the street in Guildford Street, Carryong. So I probably saw that and was terrified not to fucking finish uni. So I went to uni.
But we come from that sort of background where, you know, back in the Asian culture and Arab culture, is if you don't get a tertiary education, you'll end up, you know,
tougher
basically a shit kicker, right? Because
Tougher life,
in those countries back home, you basically are, right? Where here it's sort of the land of opportunity where you can start a business or even become a tradesman.
Yep.
I mean, tradesmen now are the new doctors and lawyers,
Exactly,
right? So we're and our migrant parents, you know, it's not their fault. They didn't realise, you know, where the opportunity was going to lie in the future, like 20, 30 years from when their kids were born. So the only thing that they knew is to push us to go to uni. Like I genuinely just went to uni just to shut my parents up. Just go, here's a degree. Yeah,
it would have been a reason for a lot of people back in the day.
Yeah.
I think mine was maybe not a little bit of that, probably to show them I'm doing something. But I wanted to do it, and
the good thing about you is that you used it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. I guess it's not a waste of time because they find they don't want to go down that path or whatever. They pivot. But no, I always had an interest in it. I was the first of the family to finish a degree, which was pretty good. And yeah, man, just moved into this professional space.
Yep. So that's basically accounting.
Yep.
Right. And what's a CPA, Sam?
So I'm IPA. So when you get your accounting degree, you're not really qualified or certified. You have to become a member of an organisation, accounting body, to be certified. So there's three main bodies in Australia. There's CA, they're for more if you're an accountant in a business, a commercial accountant they call them. Then there's the CPA, which is for similar to what I do, public practice type work, where you're an accountant for many people, not a business as such. And there's IPA, which is what I am, Institute Public Accountant.
So
that's separate to the degree.
I've actually never asked you this before because my brother's an accountant by trade, right? He's qualified, but he didn't go down the route of starting a business or working for a firm that looked after clients. He worked in a company and he did that for a long time. But what determines, like, when you graduate, how do you know which way to go? Because they're like those two professions are very, very different, right?
Very different. I think the more I know this now. I didn't know at the time when I finished.
So you didn't.
I didn't really know.
Yeah.
I knew like the two routes. So you sort of have the two main routes are public practice accountant, which is what I am. So essentially an accountant for many people, the public, or a commercial accountant for a bigger business that needs analysis, investment, advice, and all that kind of stuff. So my mate actually went down that path.
Yeah.
I went down this path. So I know what he does now. So it's more analytical. Yeah. It's more internal. It's more you're a pawn in a big business there. Where there's
But is the work the same? That's what I want to know.
Not really. Not really. I find what I do more life practical.
Yeah.
So my mate, for example, he's head of what they call it, financial planning and analytics or something.
For a company.
Yeah, it's called FP&A, mergers and acquisition.
Yeah.
He runs numbers. I can't remember where he works now, but he used to work for Suez, you know, that recycling company, the big recycling/garbage company. He used to run numbers for acquisitions within that business. So he'd work out if they should buy that business or not. And you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. So he's got a really big spreadsheet. So his stuff is very applicable if you want to stay in a big business. Yeah,
so I guess like it comes down to your personality profile probably, where do I want a stable job with I guess a big company where I'm getting a wage, I'm getting paid, I don't know, 200 grand a year, or do I want to go somewhere where it's a little bit entrepreneurial, I can maybe become a partner in that business, I can start my own business like what you've done, and then basically scale from there and I guess get into a whole bunch of other things.
Exactly.
I think what you do is more exciting, right?
You get broader experience. So put it this way, he comes to me for tax advice. I help him do things he can't do, where he can only do commercial based stuff, high end, high numbers, which not many people can get to in their personal life. Yeah. So he comes to me, he's like, okay, I'm share trading, how should I do it? I'm like, okay, we'll do it under your wife, or we'll do a family trust, blah, blah, blah. So I find what I do much more practical, and I can help a lot more people. And I think that's where it came from. I like to help. I don't want to help Suez make hundreds of millions. Sure. I'd rather help my brother learn how to do stuff, or you do stuff.
Yeah. So you with the company, there's obviously also I guess you're treated as a number. Yep. But you're also quite liable for I guess, big transactions, and if there's a stuff up, like I've heard the stories from my brother before, where, you know, you make a mistake and you know it's on your head, right? So there's a big responsibility there, and not to say there's no responsibility in, you know, public practice, but it's just, you know, you are playing with someone else's money. I guess there's a lot of liability there on that side. So I guess there's pros and cons to both, because some people like that stability, right? People like, just like government work, like people just like that stable income. It's safe, secure, and well, nothing's really safe or secure, but it's probably more safer than, you know, running your own business, right?
The accounting space in general is very safe.
I'm so glad you went down this route.
I fell into it, by the way.
Because you definitely help a lot of people, including myself. So, friends and community.
All right, so friends. So I was quite lucky. So I'm an introvert by nature, so I don't necessarily like to engage socially heaps. I do it, and I like to do it.
I've got to drag you to events.
There's a cap. There's a cap. There's a cap. So there's an analogy. It's like I start the day with 5 coins, and each interaction I lose a coin, and then I'm ruined by the end of it.
You're at capacity.
And you might be different, where you engage and you get a coin, and by the end of the day, you've got 5 coins. You feel mad. Potentially, I don't know. Maybe some days not. Maybe some days you do. But like an extrovert usually thrives on social interaction. I don't necessarily. I like my alone time. So making friends was a bit more difficult, but I can do it, and I did it.
Which I think has changed a little bit. Like I think spending, I guess, I'm actually an introvert, like naturally, right? But like,
so you're an extroverted introvert.
Yeah. So I've had to really train myself.
You do it well, man.
I had to train myself to be an extrovert. Like it's hard work, but like I realized from a really young age that, you know, especially being in business for so long, that I can't afford to be an introvert. Being an introvert doesn't pay the bills for me, right? So I had to train myself to be an extrovert, and I think that's what I noticed with you. You know, in the past 6-7 years since we've been really sort of spending a lot of time together, I've noticed that I've had to train you to basically do what I've done and be that extrovert, go to the dinners, you know, attend the events, and it's hard work, you know, like it's not easy, because, you know, especially when we deal with people all day long, the last thing you want to do is spend your Saturday nights, you know, doing that same thing. Exactly, so I'm really proud of you that, as you've progressed, because, you know, I remember you never wanted to do any of that, right? And unfortunately, we live in, you know, on an economic planet where, you know, if you're in business, you're not in business really, you're in business to make money, but you're in the business of people. And the more contacts that you can sort of acquire and more relationships you can build, the more businesses your business will scale, right? So, like I have seen the change in you, and it's definitely, you know, positively impacted your business. But you've gotten better at it, Sam.
It's turbocharged since I've been working closely with you. So, because I can see the impact it can have when you're a good communicator, and which I always was, but I'd limit it, and I didn't have to explore or push it to the envelope during an employee type role. I only had to do a certain amount. Where now it's like you're fishing constantly.
Correct. So just like, you know, we're talking about that safe, stable job. You were working at a firm that sort of just, you had the work given to you. So you were very task orientated. And a lot of our listeners who are employees would know what this feels like. It's like you just rock up to work and the work's put in front of you and you just get through it, right? It's sort of like sometimes the builders that we use in our business, they don't want to go out and get more work. They just want to work for a client like myself and
repeat.
And they just want me to provide them a site, and, you know, they want to just do the plans and build it for 12 months, right? And then they want me to go find another site and do the same thing. So for them, they're sort of operating as employees where, you know, in the service-based business like what we're in, you have to go out and get it, which means that you've got to build the relationships, you've got to make friends, you've got to, the more hands you shake, the more business you're going to do, right?
And I think it develops you into a better operator, and probably a better person, because you're able to relate to a lot more people. You're able to negotiate better, just in every other aspect of life. Your network builds, which helps you down the track. So that that move out into sort of a business space really does help your overall life.
What I've found about you, Sam, and the biggest improvement, or one of the biggest improvements I've seen, is like the way you deal with people, and you're very observant. You sort of sit back and absorb a lot of different things, and I find that you ask the right questions at the right time, because, and I can see why you're asking that, because you're gathering that intel, and you have been sitting on the majority of my meetings over the last few years, and I really like having you there, because after the meeting is done, you and I can review how the meeting went, right? Yeah. And what I find with you is that because you've trained that muscle to deal with more and more people over the last 4 or 5 years, your input and judgment of character has gotten so much better, right? There are times where you have picked something that I haven't even seen. And you've said, just for example, like we've sat down with someone, they want to do business with us, and then you'll say straight away after the meeting's done, that guy's going to burn you, right? And I'm like, why, Sam? And you'll point out all of these points which I didn't pick up on because I'm too busy presenting and putting on a show, and that's really helpful for me. And like I think 6-7 years ago, if I asked you to do that, you wouldn't be able to pick that apart. So you've been really good at reading people, and I guess what's helped you is you've married a girl who's majored in psychology, right? Yeah. But you have gotten a lot better at studying human behaviour, which, I mean, that only comes with practice.
With practice and experience. I think the older I get, and at the end of the day, what I do for work, I listen to people and their problem. So that's part of what they come to me. They're like, "Oh, this has happened. This has happened. This has happened. Can you help me?" And I for me to help them with their, I have to listen to what the actual problem is.
You got to ask questions
and then probe into it, all that kind of stuff. So I think over time, by nature, and sitting in on meetings, so I see a different angle to the meetings, because you're presenting. I can view it from like a third party and see the interaction. So it's like I'm not that it's interrogation or a litigation or anything like that, but I can see the exchange, and you're in it, so you probably can't see what I see. So that's given me a lot more insight. It's like getting a degree in like communication, because I can see it in action. That's why I can report back to you. You know
and I guess it
because you're engaged, you can't see what I see.
And it really helps me as well. It helps our clients, and it helps, well, not just clients, but partnerships, everything, because I might be presenting something and just doing my thing and trying to deliver the value, and then you'll say to me afterwards, go, "Oh, I think you didn't touch on this pain point because this person was concerned about something, and you sort of went off on a little bit of a tangent." Maybe call them or follow up with an email and provide that documentation, because I feel like that could be a sticking point for them. And that's really good for me, because sometimes like I get caught up in what I do, and having you there, being able to really analyze that, like that comes with experience. That's not something, that you just get straight away coming out of high school, right? And now we get to put it into practice.
Exactly.
Let's move on to your relationships.
They're great teachers. So they molded me quite strongly over the years. So right now, happily married the girl of my dreams, Zara, last year. But prior to that, there were some hiccups along the way, which probably most people have had. But I treat them as lessons and don't dwell on them too much. First one, so relationships. The first one I had, the serious one, was back when I was about, I think, 22. As you can imagine, you're quite young, you don't really know what you're doing. Relationship from the get-go, it shouldn't have lasted as long as it did. But you're young, dumb, in love, all that kind of stuff. That relationship in particular taught me a lot about money, actually. So, and its importance in a relationship. Not itself, but just maybe your points of view about money. So I was with this girl for a long time, I think 6 years or something. And I found we were very different in our opinion on money, how it should be used. We effectively went into debt to fund a lifestyle we shouldn't have been living at that
Which
age.
is quite common.
Very common
for people in
We
their
still
20s.
see it now
Yeah.
with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I can come in and tell them like that's not sustainable, and you're
Yeah.
really gonna end up further behind than you need to be.
Yeah, because you've made that mistake.
You made the mistake. But then it comes to the point. It's like, who's at fault in a relationship? Are they going to change? If not, like you have to then cut it. Unless you want, it's one aspect of a relationship, but it's very important. I think the stat is more than 50% of people divorce because of money
Because
problems.
of money, yeah.
So that's only going to happen in 10, 20 years when you have a kid and then your life's ruined.
Yeah.
So like most young people, I didn't really see it, but I can advise people on it
Yeah.
now, my cousins and stuff I talk to. But that relationship taught me we were not on the same page. It actually smashed me financially because I was trying to keep up with this lifestyle. Like we had a European car, we went on holidays 4 times a year.
And it's important. They're the important years of your life, right?
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are in their 20s, like you've got to remember that I fell into this trap as well. Like your 20s are really the most important years of your life to build those money habits early, because it will flow on into the later years of life.
Yeah.
It's not just the compound growth that you'll get from your investments if you're able to make investments, but it's more so the foundation that you're able to build, especially if you're wanting to go into business, because you need those money habits moving forward. So, like you making those mistakes, us talking about it now is great, right? We're like, yeah, cool, we've learnt from it. But imagine how much further ahead you'd be if you had built that foundation earlier.
Yeah.
So, and this is the value you've got to be able to tell the younger generation that, don't do it like what you do.
Don't.
the
But
way
I
you do
think
it.
I think everyone goes into that. I think what you got to do is make the mistake, but just don't do it for 60 years. Do it.
Yeah.
After 2 years, just move on.
Make it fast.
Make it fast.
Yeah.
Make the mistake quick, and don't drag it out. So yeah, that hurt me financially. I had another relationship I learnt some lessons from as well before I met Zara, and it sort of carried on from the first one, and it's money based again. This girl wanted to settle, and because of the first relationship decimated me financially, I wasn't in a position to do that. And even though it was sort of at the time what I was going to do and wanted to do, I couldn't do it. And then that person found someone else that could. So that made me realize that really to have a serious relationship with a future with someone, you have to have your financial situation sorted, especially if they want to have a kid and grow a family. Otherwise, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. It'll cause the money problems.
Zara, thank fuck for that second relationship that Sam didn't have any money, eh? Otherwise, Zara wouldn't be in the picture.
Well, yeah, but then I realized I got to get my shit together.
Yeah.
And I think even when I met Zara, I had some money, but I was in no way ready for family, and she wasn't either at that time. So I think at that point in time, we meshed well because.
She's at the same stage.
We're at the same stage,
yeah.
and we had a vision together that we grew together.
And I love that you just said you had that vision together, and we see it a lot where couples don't have that vision in terms of creating wealth for themselves, or they'll just be on 2 totally different pages. And usually, look, a very common scenario would be let's say the husband doesn't want to really grow, but the wife is really concerned about their future and their progression in life in terms of creating wealth, and sort of pulling themselves out of work one day and living a comfortable retirement, or it's the other way around, right, where the husband really wants to move forward, but then the wife has this expensive sort of lifestyle that is all about holidays and maybe buying the home and getting a big mortgage and all of that sort of thing. So we do see it, right? And I think it's really important from the very beginning. And we've spent countless hours talking about it before you and Zara got serious, right? Because I said to you, well, you need to set the tone early. You need to create that vision. And I believe, I'm a traditional guy, I believe that it's the man's job to create that vision. Not necessarily just the man's job to make the money, because I truly believe that, you know, women have a lot of value to offer the marketplace in terms of business.
Yep.
But it is the man's job to create the vision, to say, hey, we're going this way.
Lead the family.
Right? Because you need that. Like, you can't have the husband going, I want to go this way, the wife going, I want to go this way, and then most of the time nothing actually happens, and then it just ends in tears, right? So you've got all of this experience behind you to know that, okay, now I know what not to do.
Yes.
Now I know what to do. And, you know, I think Zara has been an integral part of your success, because she's been on board. She's brought a great career into the family. She basically just goes, Sam, you lead. I trust you. You're my husband. And that's how it should be.
Yep.
And, you know, it's a big responsibility for us guys, because, like, we need to make sure we're leading our family in the right direction, right? And that's why I'm super hard on myself when things don't go right on my end, because my job in our household is to focus on the really big stuff, right? You know, we're talking about capital allocation, you know, property acquisitions.
Big moves.
Big moves, right? Now, sometimes those big moves don't go according to plan, and sometimes you lose big. And I am so hard on myself, not because I don't really care about me, but I care about the responsibility I have for my kids and my wife, and I feel like I've let them down. Do you know what I mean? But the great thing about my relationship with Jade, and it's the same with you and Zara, is that they understand that your intentions are to get the family ahead, and that's where that communication needs to constantly be there. You know, so for our listeners that are in relationships, like, you should be talking about it on almost a daily basis. Don't ever let it go and just trust the other person is on board. Like, constant reminders and constant saying, like, I talk to Jade all the time about, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm doing, and it gives her confidence that, oh, my husband's got it sorted.
We're on track.
We're on track.
The vision is there.
Correct. For example, like, you know, we can't do a certain trip at a certain time because I've got to be somewhere for a meeting or whatever. Like, she's not going to complain. She's just go, look, I get it, because what you're working on is, you know, is more important and bigger than anything else that you know, that is going on in our lives. And, you know, there's no argument, right? So I think that constant communication together, like, for example, your past relationships, just touching on it, where things could have improved there is, in the very beginning, you could have said, hey, we're not going to live this lifestyle. If you want to be with me, we're going to live this, say in your 20s, we're going to live a pretty frugal lifestyle. It's just, we just got to delay gratification. I want to start a business one day. I don't want to be, you know, working for someone else. This is my vision.
True.
Are you on board or not? Now, you know, they might say, no, I'm not. But then you actually get to see, okay, well, you're not the girl for me.
That's right.
Right? So our advice to everyone who's early on in relationships, set the tone very, very early. And I know the reaction and the feedback is probably not what you're going to hear sometimes, but isn't it better you hear it then than 10 years down the track?
Correct. And I think communicating the vision is very important, because it's not easy. The path you're going down, that you've gone down, and where I'm going down, it's not easy. You constantly have problems, there's issues, there's money
And we live
problems.
in a country where, you know, being an employee is very favourable. Like, if you want to be an employee, this is the country, like, we're the idiots, you know, running the businesses and sticking our necks out for no reason. But, you know, being an employee is definitely a lot easier. It doesn't really require much of a vision, rather than sort of progressing in your career. You know, but that's the trap, that's the matrix, that's what we're all talking about, where it's not necessarily wrong, but, you know, you're conditioned from an early age to get a job, pay the highest tax rate, tie yourself down with a mortgage, with a home that you're paying with after-tax dollars, be a slave for 30 years, and hope that you've got enough in your super to retire you, right? And that keeps the wheels moving, and that's why we're programmed to be like that. So, look, it's you know, we're very visionary, and we try and educate and teach people to think bigger and to do bigger things and live up to your potential, because there's a world of opportunity out there if you are entrepreneurial. But yes, relationships wise, it can affect it, but it can affect it in a positive way as well. Like Jade and I have a ball with, you know, growing and, you know, solving problems and running our businesses.
Because you think the same, you're on the same page.
Yeah, we like it. We really enjoy it. Like it's very stressful at times. Like, right now, it's quite stressful, you know, where it's a weak part of the economy. But, you know, we actually really enjoy it. And, you know, sometimes Jade will whinge and she'll go, fuck, you know, like it's so hard. Like, why has it got to be this difficult? And I'll say to her, what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, really? What else are we going to do?
Go and get a job.
What, you're going to retire and sit on the beach all day? Like, no, man. Like, this is us. This is what we do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All right. So I guess going back a step with your career, I mean, we've actually really already touched on that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to money habits.
Money habits. So money habits, I was pretty good from the get-go, really. I was always, you know, when you first get into a job and you get a paycheck, you do stupid shit and spend it all, which I did for a while. But I was able to build up a bit of a cash balance quickly, early on. And I think, I don't know why, I think maybe it was my position in the family being a middle kid. I never really got new stuff. I did to an extent, not as often as, say, Ahmed, because he was the eldest. He always had to get the new stuff to then pass down to everyone.
At least the age gap between you and Ahmed is not
too far.
It's basically the age gap.
But I was too
got,
fat.
right?
I was too fat to fit into it.
Well, the age gap between me and my brother is like 6-7
Too
years.
much, yeah.
So
You
the
have to wait
stuff that I would get would like be obsolete and out of fashion, right?
yeah.
So I'd look like I'm living in the 70s. You know what I mean? Because he was born in the 70s.
Yeah,
But-
that issue. So I didn't have that.
Yeah, middle child issues. I'm with you.
Same. So we had similar problems with that kind of stuff. But so I never really. Every now and then I got a new thing. You know, I remember, man, getting my first pair of Nike Airs or something. I think I was year 7 or something.
Isn't it weird?
Nike
Back in the
Airs.
day, Nikes were like the biggest luxury ever
massive.
as a kid, right? Now, my son,
he's
I
got-
reckon he's got
more than me.
He's got more than the Nike shop, right? He's got shoe
He's
boxes,
gonna
shoe
outgrow 'em.
boxes. Oh,
Next
man.
year they won't fit
We've
him.
got to stop.
When
We've
I have
got
a
to
kid,
stop.
can I come and get that?
Oh, have him, please.
But yeah, I never really had that materialistic
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
which has served me well. I'm the best window shopper. Ask Zara. Like on my phone, I've got about 100 tabs of things I want to buy.
Yeah.
But I found when I go to buy it and I get it, for some reason I don't wear it or use it. For some reason I don't know why. So it's more exciting to have not bought it a bit, but have it on my list to be purchased. I don't know what it is. So
It's the pursuit.
yeah, the
right?
pursuit
it's
of
the
it.
pursuit, and it's the same as when I bought like my first really nice car. Like I remember the pursuit of it, looking on car sales and talking
chase,
to friends
like you're
about
chasing,
it,
chasing,
and you know, like you're negotiating, and then you pick it up, you pay for it, and then you know, I remember driving home once in one of my first nice cars, and 15 minutes later, like I forgot that I actually was driving the car. Do you know what I mean?
It became
as in
normal. It became normal.
Yeah, like it was no different to driving the Corolla, right? So yeah, I think it's the pursuit and sort of the things you've got to do to get there that is fun. You know, it's that journey. It's almost like in business, it's not so much achieving that goal. It's more so the person you've become in between.
The journey.
And that's served you really well, Sam,
Yeah,
because you know you haven't wasted money on shit, and you know you've to the point where like I've got to buy you
You
stuff,
tell me.
know?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say. It's sort of, it can actually be to a fault because you're like, man, can you buy some more clothes? I'm like, okay, I will, man. But I'm at like, yeah, I just never got that materialistic thing, which I think some people do, and it gets carried away, especially when you have no money.
Yeah.
It sets you up for failure. So I've always been pretty good. I've been good with money, been able to save. My dad always used to hassle me about having cash on me. So I remember a few times when we're out and my dad needed money or something, he wanted me to pay for something, or even just test me. He's like, do you have some money on you? And I didn't have like physical cash. He's like, always have money on you. So he drummed into me like it's important to be able to have like that provision just in case you need it. And you know, in life you got to take that more serious and have more for the life sort of thing, not just when you're out, you know, at the shop. So I just took that and started increasing your cash balance.
So you're
That's it.
carrying suitcases around
Suitcases
everywhere
of
you
cash, yeah, man. But so he drummed that into me. Always be sort of self-sufficient, don't rely on no one. So that sort of.
So I
leads you
think,
down.
so I think you had really good money habits. So when we first started working together, you had really good money habits. You didn't waste anything. But I think it went too far the other way where you hoarded your cash.
Yeah, definitely.
And you didn't have a lot of it, but you still just hoarded it. And then when we were suggesting you to put it into the market, you were very hesitant because you worked so hard to hoard that cash. And, you know, I remember it was just before COVID. And I was trying to tell you, bro, like you got to do it, you got to do it, you got to do it. And you were so hesitant, right? And I just think back and I think, okay, if you didn't do that, like it wouldn't have kick-started you to start the business. It wouldn't have kick-started you to buy more property because you wouldn't have had any growth in any property and you wouldn't have seen the result of that taking action. And I think that's where we needed to really fine-tune that with you 5-6 years ago and say, okay, Sam, your money habits are great, but we now need to be a bit more aggressive and get you to grow, right? And it's that transition, we've talked about it on podcasts before, where that transition from being really frugal and saving every dollar that you've got and not buying anything and delaying gratification, transitioning to more of a growth mindset and going, okay, push it into the market, let's grow, let's expand, let's try and get the best returns possible. And you've made that you know, it took a while for us to do that, but like you're now here, right? Where to the point where you've got no money in the bank.
I'll turn it to you.
But you're fully invested into the market. You've got millions of dollars worth of equity, and you're flying, right? And you're doing construction. You've always got a construction project open at any one time, and you've got this vision for yourself because now you've seen the result from that compound effect, which is not really that much, right? It hasn't really taken effect where you're seeing it after 10 years and really take off. But you have seen the effect of the market growth and having multiple assets in the market grow in value. And now you've got this bigger vision of doing, you know, multi-unit sites and all of that sort of thing. Like property's our thing, obviously. And you're reinvesting into your business as well. So, you know, like, you wouldn't be here without having made that transition from the very beginning. But also you wouldn't be here if you weren't frugal in the beginning with those money habits. Because imagine if you weren't and you're starting from being behind, like you might not even get to this stage.
No, definitely. So it's a sort of phase. I was good with that basic phase of building up cash, but then deploying it, I was too scared to. But that's, I guess, with the next point, like the mindset shift, that's what you got to do. Really, I was trying to get ahead doing the same thing, which there's a saying, insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. So I kept doing the same thing. I was playing in a bit of shares back in the day, even precious metal. But even though I was educated in this stuff, I never thought to deploy the money in the property space. So that sort of mindset shift had to occur for me to begin to grow, really.
Yeah, and this mindset shift we're talking about is really about thinking bigger, right? And this is more than just going, hey, I want to stop being frugal and save everything and you know, convert into a growth mindset. It's actually, it has this relative effect on everything else in your life. So for example, you know, I'll just take Jade as an example. When she comes to me with an issue that she's going through with her the hair salon, and you know, she'll go, oh, you know, I'm behind in figures this month or whatever it is, and you know, last year and this time I was making, you know, $50,000 more or whatever it is, right? And I'll say to her, I'll go, look, zoom out, look at it on an annual basis, and look at it. Don't just look at the numbers, look at the asset that you have built. Look at the staff and the team that we have. Look at the brand we have created. Look at the clientele base grow from, you know, 2,000 clients to 3,000 clients. Like, look at everything that you have achieved, not just the numbers in terms of returns and margins, right? And then that'll make you feel better that you're actually ahead. And it's the same with our clients with the property investment space, right? Definitely. People focus so much on cash flow and negative cash flow and shortfalls and
short term.
Yeah, short term. Okay, per year you're losing 15, 20 grand, right? Like you're paying it to the bank in interest. But how much did the property grow in value in that year, right? If we look at the average growth rate of say 7%, $1 million worth of property has grown by 70 grand. And that's quite conservative in some of the markets we're investing in, but you use it as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If you're losing 15, 20 grand, but you're making 70, like you don't really care. And then when you think like that, when you make that mindset shift, what happens is you hold on to the property, you don't sell it.
That's right.
Right? And everybody knows the longer you hold on to property, the better off you'll do. It's the same in business. If you have a bad week or you had a bad month or even a bad year, Sam, right? Like this year has been tough for all businesses, and this is a business-based podcast, right? So our listeners who are in business and you feel like you've had a bad year, make that mindset shift and go, what are the learnings from it, right? What assets did you acquire within the business? Yeah. How big did your brand grow? Did you get more clients? Did you build more relationships?
Did you learn something new?
Correct. Like yourself is an asset. So, really zoom out and go, look, there are positives to this. And it's not like us going, oh, it's just manifestation and positive mumbo jumbo. It's actually the truth. Like if you could endure a bad year in business and still be in business, you might be at a loss on paper, but you're a better business person.
That's right.
Because now you can deal with so much more. So that mindset shift is
very important.
Very important. All right, let's keep moving. Investing. So we've touched on, we've sort of touched on investing because we've talked about what you've done with your
transitioning from savings to investing.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I found an email from you from 2016. I went through my emails.
Right.
You approached me back then.
Yeah.
You're doing a project in Merriweather, and I got the exact email.
Yeah, this is a good one. Let's talk to our listeners about this.
Which I should have fucking pulled the trigger on.
Yeah. So this was in Merriweather. It's a block of 10 units, and it was an older 1970s brick unit block, and we there were three partners involved in it, and it was one of the first Luxland projects we did, and we bought the block, we reskinned it, renovated the whole thing, and they were selling for about 500 grand a pop, and I actually kept one for myself, and there were a few people that I approached, because back then, I was early on in business and didn't really know a lot of people. So I was just reaching out to family and friends. I even approached, we talked about this the other day, actually. I approached my in-laws because they had just sold their house from a divorce. And, I was trying to say to them, all right, well, you got to do something with your money, park it in here. So this was in 2016, so not even 10 years ago. And I kept one for myself.
Do you still hold it now?
I still hold it now, and this is where the story's leading to. Yeah. So I had my banker reach out to me the other day, and he said, look, I'm just going to do a review of your portfolio. I'm going to just conduct some valuations on some of the properties in your personal name. The one that I kept for myself, I kept it in Jade's name. And that property, which was $500,000, is now valued at $1 million from the bank.
Doubled 10 years. Wow.
Yeah, not even
less than eight years.
Not even 10 years. So, mate, you missed out on that one.
Well, that's the lesson here. It's like I was probably at that point still too scared to transition from savings to deploying the money or investing. So that's what happens when you delay action. You miss out on $500,000. Yeah, and it happened again before.
But it can work the other way as well, right? Yeah. So if you're not educated and you buy the wrong asset, it can sort of maybe not grow in value, or it can go backwards. So I think you made the right decision at the point in your life because you still took action, 2-3 years later. But now, look, you're a very savvy.
I'm catching up.
Yeah, you're a very savvy property investor, and you're moving into the development space in no time. From employee to entrepreneur, we've covered that already. I think number 10, which is the final point, is basically just your personal growth. So I guess I'm the one that can see this the most, and I know, like, this is another thing, sitting down with your brother and his family over the weekend, they were also saying it as well. They were going, look, what you and Sam have created and what you've done has really, really just you know, it's really changed Sam's life
Sure.
for the better. And, you know, I've seen the gradual improvement. Well, not so gradual. I think it's rapid, to be honest with you, because it's been in a relatively short period of time. But I'm super, super proud of you. And
Thanks,
watching you grow and watching you adapt to different problems. And the thing is, I present you with problems every day. Like, I actually can't wait to get off this podcast to tell you the update for the last week. But, you know, like, you have been such an integral part to my success. You know, your capabilities are even, I can see, are so much more. You've got so much more potential to go. And watching you over the last 5 or 6 years, just like I was thinking about my business yesterday when I put up that post of 10 years in Luxland, watching you has been just as rewarding as that, you know, watching you grow, watching you change, watching you lose weight and get into shape, like everything. You're dressing better, you know, you're conducting yourself a lot better. Not that you were bad before, but like
That's
you've
improved.
just really matured.